All right, so factoring simple trinomials. So you would have factored a little bit in grade 10, but factoring is the opposite of expanding. So when we're looking at this, you got to remember when we factored these, we factored using the trinomial, so the sum and product. What we're looking for are two numbers that multiply to c. So two numbers that multiply to c and add to b. So they have to do both. Okay, so if we were looking at that top form there, so we've got to multiply to c and add to b. So if we are looking at this, some people are better than others at this. Some people see it really quickly. I've attached a multiplication chart at the homework section of this. It will make it a little bit easier, but we're always going to put an x in the front or whatever our variable is. And then we're going to just work through it. So this case, it would be either 1 and 8, because 1 times 8 is 8, or 2 and 4. And 2 plus 4 is 6, so we know that it can be 2 and 4. The next one, again, we always start by putting two brackets, put an x at the front, two numbers that multiply to 18 and add to 9. So our options are 1 and 18, 2 and 9, or 3 and 6. So in this case, it's got to be 3 and 6. Okay, because 3 plus 6 is 9. Same thing here. Just going through the same steps. Okay, multiplying to 15, adding to 8. Okay, it's going to be 1 and 15 or 3 and 5. So here, it's got to be 3 and 5. Okay, I'm just going through multiples in my head and then seeing if they add to that middle number. All right, now it does get a little bit harder because we always have to look at the c value and see whether it's positive or negative. And then we actually have to check the b value to see what it is. Positive values are way easier because if the c value is positive, all we have to do is put our x at the front. So the c value is positive in these first two. Put our x at the front. And then the sign that goes in the middle is always the same as that middle sign. Because two positives make a positive and two negatives make a positive. Okay, those are the only ways to get a positive. Okay, so we need two numbers that multiply to 15 and add to 8. We have 3 and 5. Multiply to 15 and add to negative 8, negative 3 times negative 5. They're positive 15 and negative 8. All right, now these ones are a little bit harder. So here we've got a negative. So what that tells me is that one of my brackets is positive and one is negative. Same thing here. We've got a negative, one bracket is positive, one bracket is negative. Because that's the only way we can multiply to get a negative number. This one's a little bit harder because what I need to do is I need to say, okay, well 15 times 1 adds to 15. 15 minus 1 is 14. That's not negative 2. 1 minus 15 is negative 14. That's not negative 2. Okay, so let's go to the next set of multiples, 3 and 5. 3 times 5 is negative 15. That's good. All right, so positive 5 minus 3. Well, that's positive 2, so that doesn't work for this first one, but it works for the second one. Positive 5 minus 3 is positive 2. For the first one, if we have positive 3 and negative 5, positive 3 minus 5 gives me negative 2, so that works here. There's a little bit more work, but you need to make sure you're checking those values. So if we factor these, all right, so we've got, again, we're always starting the same. Now we've got a plus at the end, so that tells me that both of these are either positive or both of them are negative. But the sign in the middle is going to be negative. So if we look at this, we've got two numbers that multiply to 8. Oh, this is wrong. Because it doesn't work. So let's do this. Let's make that a negative. So that means we have a positive and a negative. So we have to be 8 and 1 or 4 and 2. Well, what we need to do is we need to look is positive 1 minus 8 will give me 7. So then that works. I guess they're all negative, so that 8 should have been a negative. Here we've got 24. Okay, so the middle number actually tells us also how far away the two numbers are from each other. Okay, we know we have a plus and a minus, but those plus and a minus are two numbers away from each other. So 24 and 1 wouldn't work because they're not 2 digits away. So if I'm looking at this, 24, well, 6 and 4 are 2 numbers away. Now the 6 has to be positive because this sign is also the bigger number. Okay, that's another little trick that you can look at here. Here, we've got a plus and a minus because the last number is negative. They're one number away because we've got minus 1x. The minus is going to tell me the bigger number here, so this is going to be 3 and 4, because 3 times 4 is 12, they're one number away. And 4 is negative because that middle number is negative. Right? Here we've got x plus minus. These ones are 12 numbers away. So if we do something that's 12 numbers apart, is going to be kind of hard to find. So 64 divided by 2 is going to give me 32. 32 and 64, they're not 12 numbers apart. 64 divided by 3 doesn't work. 64 divided by 4 is 16. 4 and 16, well, they're 12 numbers apart. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the 4 and then 16. The reason the 16 is negative is because the 12 is negative. Alright, let's look at this next one. We've got a plus and a minus. And in this case, we have 6 minus 1. Alright, and I'm just going to kind of go through these. You can try these by trying to do them before I write the answers in. Just pause the video and work through the next ones before I write the answers in. That's always helpful. Divided by 14, no. 108 divided by 15. 108 divided by 16. What is this? 108 divided by... Oh, I don't even know. 3 numbers apart. Multiples of 108. So, factor. What is this? We're 3 digits apart. So, we've got to be pretty big. 10 and 10. So, 108 divided by 8. 108 divided by 9. There we go. 9 and 12. So, like that. Alright, what if we have something like this? Well, all this shows is actually that we have a 0 in front of our b value. Okay, so we need two numbers that multiply to negative 36 and add to 0. Well, if this number here is a square, which most cases it will be, it's actually just the square root of that number. Plus 6, minus 6, they multiply to 36 and add to 0. Here we've got plus 4, minus 4. And it doesn't matter ever what order you put these brackets in. They're going to give you the same answer always. And I'm just going through and actually taking the square root of that last number. Okay, I'm putting my two brackets, and you'll notice it's the same each time. I've got a plus and a minus, and I'm square rooting the last number, so then we can get our answer. And there's a worksheet that goes along with this.